show.
My computer's restarted, so it's closed my documents.
G, I have put you back in the waiting area so that your sound doesn't come through. You let me know as soon as you are ready.
Yeah, sorry, man, because the computer restarted.
This is not just another talk show. It's the pulse check of a working continent. The job market, where policy meets people and numbers meet names. From factories to futures, from data to dignity. We don't just count jobs, we build them. The job market, only on Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover. Hello Africa! Want to stay plugged into the world of work? Follow us at Career Indaba on LinkedIn, Instagram and X, and dive deeper at careerindaba.org. The conversation becomes a movement. The idea becomes an economy. This is not another event. It's an activation of Africa's potential. The Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026, where 5,000 delegates, 100 exhibitors, and 20 bootcamp zones collide to create the future of work. From youth innovators to corporate pioneers, from township traders to global brands, every voice counts. 2 days, one goal. Aligning Africa's skills with its opportunities. Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026. 15th to 16th May, Sandton Convention Center, where skills meet, where Africa works. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover. A 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market. The conversation becomes a movement. The idea becomes an economy. This is not another event. It's an activation of Africa's potential. The Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026, where 5,000 delegates, 100 exhibitors, and 20 bootcamp zones collide to create the future of work. From youth innovators to corporate pioneers, from township traders to global brands, every voice counts. 2 days, one goal. Aligning Africa's skills with its opportunities. Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026. 15th to 16th May, Sandton Convention Center, where skills meet, where Africa works. This is not just another talk show. It's the pulse check of a working continent. The job market, where policy meets people and numbers meet names. From factories to futures, from data to dignity. We don't just count jobs, we build them. The job market, only on Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover. This is not just another talk show. It's the pulse check of a working continent. The job market, where policy meets people and numbers meet names. From factories to futures, from data to dignity. We don't just count jobs, we build them. The job market, only on Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover.
Good morning and welcome to Career Indaba's Impact Week. I'm Gaynore Clarke and it's an absolute pleasure to be here with you as we kick off this important conversation about formalizing the informal economy. For those of you joining for the first time, Career Indaba is an organization that is dedicated to connecting talent with opportunity, empowering young people and professionals through access to education, career development, and employment pathways. This week is Impact Week at Career Indaba, and it's Career Indaba's annual platform where we will explore the biggest forces shaping the job market, from technology to entrepreneurship, education, employability, and we'll look at how we can build an inclusive economy that works for everyone. Today's conversation, which will focus on formalizing the informal sector, shines a light on a vital yet often overlooked part of our economy. Across Africa, over half of the workforce earns a living outside of the formal sector. And in South Africa, the story is very similar. So today we'll talk about unleashing some of the hidden productivity and creating a sustainable pathway, taking people from hustling to enterprise. We'll also explore how formalization can expand tax bases, strengthen worker protections, and transform the African labor market from survivalist to sustainable. If employment is a crisis, which it currently appears to be, the informal economy might just hold some of the keys to the solution. This morning, we'll be joined by a group of change makers. First, I'll have a chat with the CEO of Career Indaba, Khani Maravati. She's a recruitment specialist and advocate for bridging the gap between formal employment and informal economy. I'll speak with Mampapatla Madikoto. He's the General Secretary of the National Informal Traders Alliance of South Africa. And he's a key voice for informal traders' rights and policy inclusion. Then I'll speak with Jamie Weingard, who's the founder of Leap, a tech-enabled platform helping informal traders and micro enterprises access digital tools, payments, and growth pathways. My last guest will be Rashida Miller. She's the national president of NITASA, a powerful advocate fighting to remove bylaws, red tapes, and barriers that hinder informal traders. So we'll explore how to bring informal workers, small enterprises, and micro traders into the mainstream economy through access to finance, compliance support, and policy reform. Thank you for being here if you've joined us this morning. Before I dive into some of the stats, the time now is 20 past 6. And my first guest will join us very soon. But before we do that, let's look at some of the stats from Statistics SA. And let's look at what some of the numbers and what are some of the stories that the numbers are telling us. Behind every statistic is a story of people, livelihoods, and possibilities. So, according to Statistics SA's quarterly labor force survey released earlier this year, South Africa's official unemployment rate sits at about 32.9%. And that was as at the first quarter of 2025. When we include discouraged work seekers, the expanded unemployment rate rises to 43%. That means that nearly half of working age South Africans are without formal jobs or stable income. But what's equally important is what's happening outside of the formal sector. Stats SA reports that as of 2023, about 1.9 million South Africans earn their income in the informal business sector. That's up from 1.5 million a decade ago. And most of these enterprises seems to be concentrated in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal and Limpopo, showing us that informal trade isn't a marginal activity, it's a cornerstone of local economies across our provinces. And these numbers remind us of something vital, and that is that the informal sector isn't just a safety net, it's an economic engine. And it's where people are creating, they are innovating, and they are surviving. Growing up, I know there was always a shop around the corner where we could go and where we could get whatever our necessities were. And this forms part of the formal economy. So today's conversation is recognizing that contribution, and it's about exploring how do we formalize without losing the spirit of enterprise that drives the sector forward. With that foundation, my first guest will be Kani Maravati. She's the CEO of Career Indaba. She's passionate about access to opportunities, access to jobs, and to inclusion. She's the CEO of Career Indaba, and she's a recruitment specialist and a driving force behind initiatives that connect education, employment, and enterprise. I'm going to just check if Kani is ready for us before we dive into the interview with Kani.
This is not just another talk show. It's the pulse check of a working continent. The job market, where policy meets people and numbers meet names. From factories to futures, from data to dignity. We don't just count jobs.
Time 5 minutes past 6.
Job market. Only on Career
I'm waiting
Indaba
for
Impact Week.
Kani
The Boardroom
Maravati to
Takeover.
join me in studio so that we can chat to Kani, who is CEO of Career Indaba.
Good morning, Gaynore. I'm with you in studio. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Gaynore, can you hear me? Gaynore? I think. Oh, I can see you, Gaynor. Can you hear me?
So, you, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I can hear you now.
Okay, there we go. You've been busy with Impact Week whole week, Kani, as the CEO of Career Indaba. How's it been going?
It's been absolutely amazing listening to all the various speakers and, gathering some insights from some of the conversations and also suggestions on how we should even shape Impact Week going forward. I'm very excited about what we've managed to achieve to date in the last 3 days. We've been able to share available opportunities. So we were able to curate a list of almost 60 bursary applications that are currently open. And also learnership programs. We were able to communicate that yesterday through the segment of the job market on Wednesday. And for me, that was the most important thing. However, even the conversations, as well as the time that has been, dedicated by our board members, I think that for me is commendable. Every single board member, they've raised their hands to say, yes, we're going to do it. We are not broadcasters. However, we will give it a go because this is for a really good cause. So Career Indaba is an impact organization, is a purpose-driven organization. It is designed to really create access to the many available opportunities that we have, be it from, issues of job hires that are open and people applying, and they're not sure what's happening with their applications. Issues around skills development. People would like to understand how do they reskill themselves, because we talk about lifelong learning and there's so many programs available there. And Career Indaba is designed to really help people align themselves with skills that are currently in demand. So if you think about the high unemployment rate of most of our graduates, they are qualified, but the demand is not what we are currently sitting with. And we're looking for solutions. So Career Indaba is really around how do we actually co-create solutions? How do we communicate and use Career Indaba as the voice of the labor market in communicating what the labor market is looking for to help us drive the economy? In terms of job opportunities, I would like us to use Career Indaba platform to really communicate boldly those skills that are required by employers to be able to fill the vacancies. So both of us sitting here, Gaynor, we know the amount of vacancies that are out there. We know there's a lot of recruitment agencies sitting with posts, but it's taken them more than a week, more than a month to fill those posts. Why? Because they can't find the right people their clients are looking for. Even employers, they've got vacancies. There's tons of vacancies. It didn't take us long to curate a list of available bursary applications as well as learnerships. Opportunities are there, but do people have access to it? How do we create a platform where and we don't want to repeat? There's a lot of amazing platforms out there, the likes of Yes for Youth, the Presidential Employment Network. It's an amazing platform. We've got multiple platforms. Yesterday we had 2 guests. One who has designed what they call Career Box, another who is founder and CEO of Job Box. So there's plenty of platforms out there, and they're trying to solve for the same issues. So Career Indaba is really jumping on the opportunity of using digital media as well as broadcasting to really amplify these opportunities that are available, but also to help people align themselves with market demands, because we go to school to be able to enter the labor market ultimately and be able to take care of ourselves. And there's nothing discouraging like being qualified and waiting as a young adult, wanting to participate in the economy and looking for financial freedom. But for various reasons, we are not able to achieve that for the millions of people. And the numbers are growing. We know that this year, there's a lot more matriculants sitting for their exams as we speak. Most of them won't be able to gain access into learning institutions, be it university, TVETs, or whatever. And that continues to increase the number of unemployed young people. Who's going to run Africa? Who's going to run South Africa? who will be the next president when the young people today are struggling to gain access and gain experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for that, Kani. And I think that's why I'm also so excited about what Career Indaba is doing, because I think for the longest time, just access to opportunities, access to jobs, access to information, challenge for people as it relates to the job market. It's been a challenge with the sense of it's about who you know, and it shouldn't be just about who you know. So you talk about the matriculants, where are the opportunities? You talk about the graduates, where are the opportunities? The fact that we as graduates and as students have obtained qualifications should be enough for us to secure jobs. And if we have the right access to the right information, the right platforms like Career Indaba, it will make it easier for people to actually become employed. So, Kani, I'd like to delve into a couple of questions, if that's okay. You've spent years helping people find work and helping organizations find talent. From your perspective, what does the informal economy represent in South Africa's employment landscape?
Again, you won't believe this. I've only, discovered and maybe started to appreciate and understand this economy called the informal economy. And I think the word informal economy, it makes it sound, I don't know, almost like it's okay and we're accommodating you and it's okay to have the informal economy and so forth. And through my research and when I was working on Career Indaba's vision, I came across some interesting things because I was looking for unemployment information across the continent. And I couldn't find a lot of information. Every time I was searching, I stumbled upon the economy, especially in many other. There's something here. There's gold. There's diamonds here which we don't appreciate, especially here in South Africa, or maybe even look at it in an aspirational way, if I may use that word. And I started gaining a lot more interest and a lot more respect in understanding more about the informal economy. And I'm being open and honest. I'm not going to sit here with you and pretend as if I really understood it and all of that. So I've got such an interest, a keen interest to really delve deeper into it, and with the understanding that other countries, they're surviving and I wouldn't say thriving, they're surviving, being a heavily or highly informal economy that drives sort of activities within their countries. So for me, I think it represents innovation more than anything else. I mean, I think about, one day relocating, moving somewhere in some rural Zanin area where I can farm, where I can do amazing things and just enjoy my retirement as an informal, informal farmer or whatever the case might be. I'm sort of drawn into that. I've got split sort of thought or schools of thought around the informal economy. There are two things that scares me. So the one part, it talks to the fact that your day-to-day needs can be met when you're running like your small micro enterprise, informal business. I get that we can buy bread, milk, whatever the case. Then there's the part where there are real challenges where we need to have finances to be able to access hospitals, to be able to pay for the children's school fees, to be able to pay and to be able to travel and do health care. For me is one of those. And I'm questioning, is it sustainable? Because my passion is that of moving people out of poverty and restoring people's dignity. So if I'm going to be sick and I'm an informal economy participant, will I be able to survive in this economy where a loaf of bread is around between 18 Rand and 25 Rand? Those are some of the things that I'm actually, but I see huge opportunity in terms of how things can be innovated in there. But also, I also ask myself, if we want to even think of formalizing the informal economy, what does it mean? What does it mean? Does it mean we ring fence the informal economy from issues of certain policies that we have? I don't know. Those are some of the questions I'm starting to ask myself, because I think there's a push and a shift to say, let's formalize you, let's register you, let's track whatever finances and bank account, whatever the case is. I'm very curious. For me, it's a study, and I'll be very interested if, should I decide to do my master's, is one study I'd like to actually engage in.
Yeah, so you talk about innovation, freedom. I think that's what I'm hearing as well, freedom, and moving people out of poverty. So this need that we have now, I think, because this conversation is increasing around the informal sector and including the
It is.
informal sector in the conversation. Why do you think it's important? It's becoming so important right now.
It's quite a sensitive issue, because I remember when the former CEO of the other bank, when he mentioned that South Africa is sitting at single-digit unemployment because we've got this informal economy and we've got stats and data that can prove you, because we service this a group of people. And he's very passionate about his story, which is great. Then, from a Stats SA point of view, there was a formal note and a formal response regarding that. My big question is around, it's more around some of the policies that we have around it, and to also be very careful and tread very carefully the minute we want to classify that as employment. We need to, what is employment? And what does it equate to in South Africa? Because the minute we say someone who sells this, that, and the other, and they're making 50 rand per day, we consider those individuals employed. I've got a very serious, it's a serious, I can't find the word. It's for me, it is it's a socioeconomic challenge for me to classify and to group, because I think they come in different levels. People who are participating and classified under the informal economy. I would toy. I think if everyone was now all of a sudden, our unemployment stats are sitting at 5% because now we have formalized the informal economy as employment, as a living wage or a living sort of income that can keep you going. That's my personal view. All right, I think I've lost my host. She's back. Let's see when she comes back. Yes, I was still responding to my host's question around the formalization of the informal economy. And hi, Gaynore, welcome back.
Sorry about that, Kani. I seem to have lost my connection there for a minute. So the question was why now? And sorry if you have to repeat.
Yes. You were asking why now? Why the interest in the informal economy now?
Yes.
As I said, for me, it represents innovation. It represents immense, like a lot of opportunities for many people. It depends on how we structure it. And I was just saying that I would like to see and understand the views from those who are saying our unemployment stats should be sitting at single digits.
Mm.
And if that's the case, what does it mean in terms of, because I believe there's different levels of people who are participating in the informal economy. What I mean by that is that you've got someone who sits at the corner selling their veggies, and they only make per day, what, 100 Rand, I suppose. And you have someone who's making 20K per day or per month or whatever the case might be. Tracking and understanding all that information, one would need to understand, well, what would be fair? And to classify now everyone under the, no, we don't have an employment issue, everyone is making money somewhere. That, I think, SAST has got a very interesting piece of work to do around how would that kind of information be cut and diced. And I was just saying that I would actually toy if everyone will just be grouped under one hub, because the real issues are around dignity and alleviating poverty. So if I'm making 100 Rand per day or $50 per day for selling my tomatoes, what does it translate into in terms of a living wage across everyone, across the population in the country?
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to having the conversations today, because it's also just about how do we support this sector? How do we support this economy? There is a challenge from an employment perspective, and how do we empower people to just create their own opportunities within this context? So I'm really looking forward to having a conversation with our guests, with the rest of our guests today. So when we think of recruitment, we often focus on formal qualifications, formal CVs, but many of the informal workers have skills that don't necessarily appear on paper. How do you think the recruitment sector can start recognizing the value of that kind of experience?
Gaynor, do you think it's the recruitment sector or do you think it's employers?
Probably,
yeah. Go for it.
It's probably a bit of both. Our brains are kind of naturally, there's bias exists naturally within our brains.
Yes.
I think to a large extent, recruiters, they get to understand, and they look at CVs differently. They look at people differently. They look at opportunities differently. But of course, they work for a client that's looking for things that's very, very specific. I don't think there's no bias within the recruitment industry, but definitely probably sits more within the clients, the corporate space.
I'm smiling, and I'm smiling like I think you might be able to see my teeth from the back. You and I know we've come a very long way with regards to competency-based recruitment. And sitting here right now, 8 years later, after working just focusing on talent acquisition and so forth, I don't think competency-based recruitment has been applied to its deepest depth. So when we're looking, we used to say, no, we're looking for skills. People, we want to assess knowledge. We want to also the fit. All of those three critical points, we look at that. But when you're actually recruiting and you receive your spec, more often it would be an emphasis on the qualification. If they don't have this qualification, we don't need them. And being an employer myself, where I've looked at the qualification, and I believe, oh, you've been trained, you are ready, but only to realize that, no, we must start from zero. We must start from knowledge. Let's assess the knowledge, your level of understanding first. Now, let's understand how are you able then to translate that knowledge into skill. And we have not done it in that way. More often it will be, oh, you sound really confident, and you'll be able to hold conversations and fit in within the organization. There the bias would come in. But I'm very excited now, because now we're recruiting for skill. We need to be now able to assess skill. And that talks to that, is it RPL, recognition of prior learning?
Yeah.
For me, more than ever, that is the most important thing. I would like to be able to set up, and this has been a dream of mine, develop a platform where people showcases their skill. And I think after speaking to, there's a gentleman there in the Western Cape, a friend introduced me to him. He's got this platform, but I'm not sure how it works. But I've got a passion to really develop a platform where I can go in and I can showcase what I'm capable of doing, how I apply myself, be it in problem solving, creativity, innovation, taking initiative, and then the rest of it that I might need to, like core understanding of policies, legislation, depending on the role. But for me, it's about skill. It's really about skill, not about
And
qualifications. We need the qualifications, but that qualification must translate into skill.
yeah,
And currently, there's a gap.
yeah. So you talk about showcasing the skill. How do we test the competence? Are there any other practical ways you see us linking informal workers or micro entrepreneurs with formal job opportunities, without necessarily forcing them to fit into a system that wasn't necessarily designed for them?
Mm. I think the country has really moved forward, and the country has created that space, activating the TVET colleges as well as the CET, community community education and training colleges. For me, that presents an amazing opportunity. However, because we still used to know, if you didn't go to such and such university or such and such, you're not going to make it here. Whereas I see potential and opportunity to even encourage more young people, even the unemployed graduates who are sitting with other qualifications, to consider TVET colleges where they can acquire, the technical vocational skills, where they can be able to, because we're going to need it. Whether AI comes in or not, we are going to need those artisanal skills to really drive businesses forward, drive the country forward. So for me, I think it's mainly in transforming and innovating a lot more in our TVET colleges, and as well as CETs, and investing. Because if you can want, you want to innovate, but if you don't invest in it, it's not going to work. I've been to a few TVET colleges through the NSA meetings and so forth. You can see the amazing work some of these colleges are producing, the caliber of candidates. It's on a different level. And if we can focus a lot more in the TVET colleges, where if someone who is somewhere Timbuktu, they can actually access the skills and be able to enhance whatever informal work activities they're involved in. That can really boost us. We don't have
Yeah,
artisanal trades people in the country. We don't.
yeah. And what do you think some of those opportunities are then that the informal sector can kind of teach the formal sector, if anything?
Hmm. That's a very interesting question. I think for me, I see synergies between the two. You can't survive without the other. I see really more of a collaborative way of working. We know that a lot of manufacturing companies, they are investing. I mean, we listened to one of the guests the other day. A lot of the multinational companies, they're really investing a lot more in vocational type of learning, especially manufacturing, because there's a need for it. They can't survive without it. So I just see opportunity to collaborate more, to engage more, and employers can really invest in the TVET colleges to receive that which they need down the line.
Yeah,
Um, for me, I see that as an opportunity, but without leaving out the mainstream universities and universities of technology and other private learning institutions. The missing part there is that the alignment needs to be there, and I know it's massive, but it's doable. Make it simple. Maybe I can appoint you to do that, because I know you're very good at demystifying complexities into now 3
Yeah.
points, and it's
Hmm.
depth.
Yeah, and I think obviously the seaters, but particularly probably the W and R seater can play a huge role here as well.
No, they do. I mean, all the
Mm,
seaters,
mm,
um, including whether you're doing fintech, whether
mm.
there's definitely an opportunity there, because for you to develop, for you being in the fintech space, you need to understand that potential client who will need to interact with your fintech platforms.
Yeah,
So the market for that particular fintech platform can actually, the opportunity sits in that pool of informal economy. So there's the innovation coming in.
yeah,
We're living in exciting times. We live in, like as we're talking, I'm like thinking it's just exciting. Imagine
yeah,
like I live somewhere in like deep rural, and yeah, as an informal self-employed someone, I'm able to drive my business using technology. I'm able to
hmm,
transact and move my products to Europe like easily that way.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I was just reflecting also on, COVID. When COVID happened, there's so much agility that lives within, the ecosystem of the informal sector, because people were hustling during COVID, and to some extent, communities really depended during that very difficult time
Mm,
on the informal sector. And I think that's also where we started seeing the real important role that the informal sector plays in the lives just of normal South Africans.
mm.
What are some of the policy barriers currently that you think that exists besides, some of the bias that exist? What are some of the policy barriers that exist that make it difficult for informal workers to transition into formal employment or enterprise partnerships?
Mm. I think, Dana, as I said earlier on, I'm still trying to understand that sector, that economy. I can imagine that as an informal trader, if you want to sort of access funding, as an example, you want to sort
Mm,
of expand and grow your business. If you do not have a registered business, as an example, you're not going to get that funding. If there's no proof of some form of income that is coming in, you might not, gain that particular access. But it will be interesting to understand how organizations like CIVDA, they're dealing with because I know, they've been traveling around handing out machinery and all of that. So the education of many people who are sort of participating in that informal economy. And as I said, for me, I see a scale. It's like, it starts from somewhere here, and it's quite vast. So dealing with it, you need to sort of cut it up into wonderful pieces to be able to
mm,
provide for each sector individually. So
mm.
the barriers could definitely be, I can just imagine, access to funding, because you don't have a record and a history of, you can afford, you can, manage such funds or whatever the case might be. And also when you want to scale, um, that could potentially also be a barrier, because now you need to formalize your business to be able to
Mhm.
operate. I just see that at a high level. But as I said, I'm very keen to do more studies and to understand a bit more about the informal economy. And understanding it more, I want to travel to other African countries where it
Mm,
is booming.
mhm,
I mean, the likes of Nigeria, the west parts of Africa. I think a lot of those countries, they thrive and survive, and it's a hustle, it's a bustle, and all of that. And
mm,
for us, having grown up in South Africa, we see chaos, but
mhm,
it's a trading, it's a market, it's like the stock
mm.
exchange. Changing, and it's quite fun, because even when you get to the market, if you want to buy tomatoes and my friend next door doesn't have, they'll like get the tomato from, and then they will deal with each other after you've left.
Yes.
So, so yeah, I would like to travel Yeah, I would like to travel to the other African countries because South Africa has got it. I think it will be easier to
Yeah.
study, but I want to go understand how it works, how it ticks, and how people survive it. Survive and thrive throughout the years. Especially now that we are living in a very much formalized economy, and it's aspirational to belong to the formal economy as opposed to the informal. And I think for me, for South Africa, it will require also a transition, a mindset shift,
Mm.
especially from and I'm going to include myself. There's young generation to
Mm.
actually embrace
Yes,
the informal economy, because if you can earn in that space and not having to wait for a formal letter of appointment, then why not?
exactly. And seeing that Career Indaba is very much about access and creating access, connecting people to information, networks, and opportunity. How do you see the young people, the freelancers, like you said, the micro entrepreneurs, redefining what career even means in today's economy? Because I think there is a mindset shift happening around what career means. I mean, just look at, the concept of an influencer or a
Mm,
content creator, which didn't exist, not too long ago. So career is starting to look very different.
mm,
Yeah,
mm. That's a very interesting question. I think once again, one will need to understand what does unemployment mean and represents,
yeah,
in different shapes and forms in different countries, because it's gonna mean different things going forward. We will start to see interesting descriptors that defines what unemployment means or employability means. For me, it's the same with careers. So me working from home and earning money while I'm trading, or earning money while I'm blogging, or earning money while I'm just doing absolutely nothingness
mm,
because I love my freedom, and that's
mm,
my career. My career is just to be. I don't need to
yeah,
work. So that
yeah,
that's going to be interesting because career will mean different things. For me, career, it means doing what I'm passionate about. That's a career for me. If I'm
mm,
passionate about something and I'm allowed to be in that space, that is a career for me, because I know that my talent will flourish, my creativity, my level of innovation will also increase. That is a career for me. Doing what
yeah,
I love is a career for me. And I hope that answers your question about what will
yeah.
career mean.
Yes, yes. And I think, having been in corporate for so many years, from a policy perspective, again,
Mm,
there's some red tape around the fact that I work for a particular organization. And I, of course, need to declare if I've got any other means of getting an income and creating an income. And often employers are the stumbling blocks and the barriers
yeah.
for people
Yeah.
to have those side hustles. We talk about from a fulfillment perspective. We are
Mhm.
sometimes find ourselves in jobs that doesn't necessarily inspire us, but we do it because we want to earn an income. But when
Mm,
it's been proven that when we do things even within our jobs or outside of our jobs that inspires us, it obviously adds to our fulfillment, just our general fulfillment as human beings.
mm,
And one of the things that I'm also thinking about now that organizations need to shift their mindset about is exactly that. If people are doing things outside of their formal employment,
mm,
how can we break down some of this red tape that exists within that?
mm,
For example, I know that when people work in retail, and I know this might be a bit controversial, but not controversial, but it's a tricky one. When people work in the retail industry, you're not kind of allowed to sell anything outside of your job because there's a conflict of interest, and we really need to start looking at things differently from that perspective as well.
No, that is true. That is true. I think through APSO, we run these other programs, and there's somewhere where we talk about employment contracts. For
Mm,
me, employment contracts, I'm sure by now, but I haven't seen it, they should be looking very different. They should be looking really different. And I think people are just waiting for a case law. Once someone sort of wins a case around the fact that I'm employed, I'm doing what I'm employed to do here. However, I need to do other things, and
Yeah.
your contract. So there's a need, and maybe we should start to see, employers becoming more innovative around how they put together employment contracts, how they ring fence performance, delivery, remote work versus office, all of those different things. It's going to, and I haven't heard, maybe it's already happening. It will be interesting to see, because employment contracts must just look very different right now. Because I don't care what else you do outside of, if you have delivered and you're committing to deliver what you need to do with the relationship that I have with you now, I'm happy with that. But it will be interesting to get a labor law expert to help us unpack how will this look like. Otherwise, the CCMA and the courts are going to be quite busy, because all of us are side hustling, most of us.
In this economy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to just add, sorry, Kari, go ahead.
Yes, no, I'm saying we're just hustling, because you want to pursue your passions as well.
Yeah. And to just add to that, there's also these clauses, obviously, and I'm not saying it's wrong, but there's these clauses from an innovation perspective, because we talk about innovation all the time. But there's these clauses in contracts that says whatever you create and innovate within the employee of the organization belongs to the organization. Imagine, from a wealth creation perspective, if somebody comes up with a bright idea and, they earn from a wealth perspective as part of, and they are recognized as somebody who has helped develop something. The first example that comes to my mind is the guy who's still busy with, I think, Vodacom, suing Vodacom for the Please Call Me. We shouldn't end up in situations where there's cases that's been going on for 10 years because I'm suing an organization because that was my idea, that was my design. And we also need to look at how do we encourage people to be innovative within their employment, that also helps them use the skills that they've got, but also creates wealth for them within that context, and that it's not just a once off, okay, I've created it, I earn a salary, and that was part of my job type of thing.
You know what, Gaynor? That's going to be very interesting, because I still have my traditional sort of thinking to say the reason why I'm employed at such and such at Career Indaba, it's because of the talent that I'm going to bring.
Yes.
So as an employer, I'm going to look after you. I'm going to give you whatever benefits, and we negotiate and we agree. So if every minute you come up with an idea, we now need to enter into another contract on top of, it's not going to work. It's going to make it very complex. So you're right. We need to innovate in terms of how should employment contracts look like when you sort of morph your independent contractor flexible, just this entire gig economy. How do we, from a contractual labor law point of view, how should it look like? As an employer, I would want to be proactive around what kind of, because I don't want a traditional employment contract. We need to protect the employer with the employees being protected as well. It's really important, because otherwise the company is not going to survive. I'm employing you to come up with ideas. I don't employ people who are not going to innovate nothing. So it's going to be interesting.
I'm reminded now of FNB, and I don't know if they still do it, but they used to have these internal campaigns where you, from an innovation perspective, you come and present your innovation. And if your idea is implemented within the organization, you get quite a nice bonus. So you get rewarded on top of your salary that you earn. You actually get rewarded for the fact that the idea was, and I thought that was quite clever from an innovation perspective, and driving innovation across the board, because sometimes we also box people, we box ourselves. So if, like, for example, a please call me, for example, that please call me doesn't necessarily have to have been created by somebody who's sitting in an innovation department. It could have been created by anyone because they just had an idea. And FNB rewarded people for that with nice bonuses. And those are the types of things that I think we need more of.
Yeah. I think for me, my parting shot around your question in terms of policy and all of that, with regards to the informal economy, I wouldn't want to see it being overly complicated, like it is currently, the case. We wanna set up a business, an NPC. I mean, right now, yeah. So if we can make it as simple as possible, aligned to the minimum requirements from a governance point of view, from a SARS point of view, and whatever else, but it mustn't be complicated. Make it simple if we do want to formalize it and track people. And
Kani, lastly, what is your vision for what the South African labor market will look like in 5 years from now?
It's quite, sometimes it scares me, but it's at the same time it is exciting. So the reason why I'm saying it scares me, the quality of education, some of the up and coming kids they're receiving, it is a bit a challenge for me. I'm very, very concerned. Some of the graduates we have and we give opportunities to, it shocks me on how they cannot function, they cannot apply themselves, they cannot apply the knowledge. So that it sort of concerns and scares me. But I suppose we might fix it with reskilling. On the other part, I'm very optimistic. Through Career Indaba. I think we can innovate and we can collaborate and partner with innovative, creative companies to help shape how that could look like, and how it could actually look like, where everyone is able to participate and access economic freedom. If anything, we don't want people to starve. We don't want people to be in situations where they have to beg. As much as we all want to pursue our passions and all of that, you should be able to survive and thrive in that space. So I'm quite optimistic that once we have the right conversations, the right commitments, and we implement whatever it is that has been crafted and designed, that will be great. Because talk for me is, I'm over talk. I'd like to see action. I'd like to see implementation. And the country is ready for that. The country is hungry for, can we now move forward? Enough talk already. Can we just move forward and implement the minimum that we have within the resources and the means that we have through innovation?
And people are ready to just take their destiny in their own hands. People are ready. People are done waiting. Because I think we've seen that waiting doesn't really help. So there's major opportunities out there. Thank you, Kani. That's a very optimistic note to leave our conversation on. Thank you very much for your time. And enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
The time now is 7:10. That was Kani Maravati, who is the CEO of Career Indaba. We're going to take a quick 3-minute break. And when we come back, we will be introducing our next guest.
This is not just another talk show. It's the pulse check of a working continent. The job market, where policy meets people and numbers meet names. From factories to futures, from data to dignity. We don't just count jobs, we build them. The job market, Only on Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover. It's more than just an expo, it's a blueprint for Africa's future. The Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026, 15th to 16th May, Sandton Convention Center, 5,000 delegates, 100 exhibitors, 20 bootcamps. Career Indaba, where skills meet opportunities. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover, a 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market. Hello Africa! Want to stay plugged into the world of work? Follow us at Career Indaba on LinkedIn, Instagram, and X, and dive deeper at careerindaba.org. This is not just another talk show. It's the pulse check of a working continent. The job market, where policy meets people and numbers meet names. From factories to futures, from data to dignity. We don't just count jobs, we build them. The job market, only on Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover.
Mampapatla, are you there?
This is not just another talk show. It's the pulse check of a working continent. The job market, where policy meets people and numbers meet names. From factories to futures, from data to dignity. We don't just count jobs, we build them. The job market, only on Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover. Hello Africa! Want to stay plugged into the world of work? Follow us at Career Indaba on LinkedIn, Instagram, and X, and dive deeper at careerindaba.org. This is not just another talk show. It's the pulse check of a working continent. The job market, where policy meets people and numbers meet names. From factories to futures, from data to dignity. We don't just count jobs, we build them. The job market, only on Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover. It's more than just an expo, it's a blueprint for Africa's future. The Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026, 15th to 16th May, Sandton Convention Center, 5,000 delegates, 100 exhibitors, 20 bootcamps. Career Indaba, where skills meet opportunities. You're listening to Career Indaba Radio, the voice of Africa's labor market. Real voices, real change, real opportunity. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover, a 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market. Career Indaba, where skills meet opportunity. Join the movement. Career Indaba, real voices, real change, real opportunity. The conversation becomes a movement. The idea becomes an economy. This is not another event. It's an activation of Africa's potential. The Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026, where 5,000 delegates, 100 exhibitors, and 20 bootcamp zones collide to create the future of work. From youth innovators to corporate pioneers, from township traders to global brands, every voice counts. 2 days, one goal. Aligning Africa's skills with its opportunities. Career Indaba, Expo and Bootcamp 2026. 15th to 16th May, Sandton Convention Center, where skills meet, where Africa works.
Welcome back to Career Indaba's Impact Week. Our next guest is Mampapatla Madikoto, the General Secretary of NITASA. Mampapatla, can you hear me? We seem to be having some technical difficulties with Mampapatla. We are busy trying to get him back online. While we wait for Mampapatla, I'd like to just thank Kani Maravati, who is the CEO of Career Indaba, again for joining the conversation this morning. We had an interesting conversation about the intersection between the formal and the informal sector, and what are some of the things that needs to shift from a mindset perspective as it relates to the formal sector, as it relates to employers, and where does the bias live? Does the bias live with recruiters? How do we use the skills that the individuals within the informal sector, if they want to transition into the formal sector, are we recognizing the skills that people bring from the informal sector? And is it our bias that is preventing us from recognizing these skills, whether it is the recruiters or whether it's the employers? We spoke about how we can create opportunities. How do we look at policy? How do we look at learning institutions and how the learning institutions can play a role within creating more skill within the informal sector? How do we look at access to funding, access to skills development? So there's a conversation from a broader context perspective that says, what is the role that banking institutions play within enhancing the informal economy? What is the role that the SETAs currently play as it relates to enhancing the skills of individuals within the informal economy? We spoke about innovation. Does the individuals who operate and function within the informal economy have access to innovation platforms, have access to understand how, from an innovation perspective, they can become more profitable, and how they can scale their business if they wanted to? We spoke about the simplification, because so often when we look at, and we'll talk to some of the guests today, we look at the informal sector, there appears to be a bit of red tape sometimes that creeps in. And it's because some of these processes aren't regulated and formalized that the informal sector sometimes does not have recourse. And we are seeing some shifts happening, especially with forums that has been introduced that is aiming to help the informal sector become formalized, and that helps the informal sector deal with some of the complexities and the red tape that they have to deal with. We are still having some challenges with our next guest, Mampapatla. He seems to have connectivity issues. So I'm not sure if we're going to be able to speak to him this morning. And we will look at some of the stats now that I mentioned earlier from a Stats SA perspective. So earlier we spoke about that there's an unofficial or an official unemployment rate that's currently sitting at 32.9%. However, if we include the expanded discouraged work seekers in that number, it is said from a Stats SA perspective that the unemployment rate increases to 43% within South Africa. So we then ask the question, what about the informal sector? Are we truly understanding the stats that's coming out of the informal sector? Because there's lots of activity happening within the informal sector. And according to Stats SA, about 1.9 million South Africans earn their income in the informal business sector. And this is up from 1.5 million a decade ago. There seems to be indications that these enterprises are concentrated within Gauteng, it's concentrated within the KZN and Limpopo provinces. But of course, this doesn't mean that nothing is happening in the other provinces. Those are some of the stats that I can share this morning. It is now 7:25, and if you've just joined, this is Career Indaba's Impact Week, and we've got some technical difficulties with our guest who appears to us this morning. He's just advised me that he's got some electricity cuts or load shedding happening, which is affecting his connectivity. Welcome to South Africa. Let's take a quick break while we wait for our next guest to join.
This is not just another talk show. It's the pulse check of a working continent. The job market, where policy meets people and numbers meet names. From factories to futures, from data to dignity. We don't just count jobs, we build them. the job market. Only on Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover. You're listening to Career Indaba Radio, the voice of Africa's labor market. Real voices, real change, real opportunity.
Mampapatla, hi. I'm so sorry, I'm not able to talk.
The conversation becomes a movement. The idea becomes an economy. This is not another event. It's an activation of Africa's potential. The Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026, where 5,000 delegates, 100 exhibitors, and 20 bootcamp zones collide to create the future of work. From youth innovators to corporate pioneers, from township traders to global brands, every voice counts. 2 days, one goal. Aligning Africa's skills with its opportunities. Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026. 15th to 16th May, Sandton Convention Center, where skills meet, where Africa works. The conversation becomes a movement. The idea becomes an economy. This is not another event. It's an activation of Africa's potential. The Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026, where 5,000 delegates, 100 exhibitors, and 20 bootcamp zones collide to create the future of work. From youth innovators to corporate pioneers, from township traders to global brands, every voice counts. 2 days, one goal. Aligning Africa's skills with its opportunities. Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026. 15th to 16th May, Sandton Convention Center, where skills meet, where Africa works. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover. A 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market. Career Indaba, real voices, real change, real opportunity. Career Indaba, where skills meet opportunity. Join the movement. Career Indaba channel, the voice of Africa's labor market. This is not just another talk show. It's the pulse check of a working continent. The job market, where policy meets people and numbers meet names. From factories to futures, from data to dignity. We don't just count jobs, we build them. The job market, only on Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover.
Welcome back to Career Indaba. we are ready for the time now is 7:30, and we have got Jamie with us this morning. Jamie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, loud and clear.
Welcome to Career Indaba's Impact Week, Jamie.
Thanks so much. Pleasure to be here.
I'm going to do a quick introduction and then we'll take it from there.
Sure.
So, Jamie Thurston Weingart is the founder of Loop. He's an innovator using technology to solve real-world problems, and he's the founder of Loop, like I said, which is a digital platform that helps informal traders and small enterprises manage sales, payments, and access to finance. And he's bringing tech to the township economy. Jamie, just tell us a little bit more about Loop. What prompted you to start? What is Loop? What prompted you to start Loop, and how did your background lead you to focus on mobility and payments in the informal sector?
Sure. Let me first say this is a team effort. So I'm not the founder, I'm the co-founder because I have a business partner, Imtiaz Riley, and this is actually where it started. Imtiaz Riley's family is in the taxi industry. His family's been in taxis for generations. So his father, his grandfather, his aunts and uncles, they were put through school through taxi money. And he came to me about 3 years ago and he told me a little bit of a story about his dad and payments and taxis. He said his father would call him up in the morning around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock after peak time. And he'll tell him, come stand outside. And Imtiaz will just get his father outside on the road with a taxi full of people. And his father will hand him a bag of money. And his father will say, put this money in the cupboard inside. And at first, I didn't understand why is his father doing this. But then he realized that a taxi is also driving through gangster-ridden areas. They go into places where they get stopped, where it's a risk to carry all that cash on them. And he also knew that if he doesn't give the cash at home, they're going to need that money. If the money is gone, that's the installment, that's the target for the day, that's the food money. If they lose that money, it's gone. So it was too much risk carrying the cash. And Piaz was wondering, why are we still working in cash in this emerging market? Which is a good question. And then he said, can we make an app where people can pay in the taxi via the app? Now, my role first was in business validation. Sounds like a good idea, but before we just go and build anything, let's go understand what is actually going on in the industry. Why are people still using cash? And what we discovered was that it's not a case of us trying to build a digital system to compete with other digital players, because EFTs exist, tap to pay exists, you can pay with your banking app, but why is that not being used in the emerging market? That's what we had to figure out. And we realized in a taxi, if I had to pay the taxi driver via EFT, the driver gets the money in a day's time, unless I pay extra for instant payments. But the instant payment cost is the same price as my taxi fare. So why must I for my taxi fare? There's no bank charges when I give cash. And there's trust because I can see the money right now and you can use the money right now. Because for taxi driver, I need the money now because I must put in fuel right now, today. I have to pay my boss today, the target, and I have to buy food for my family today. If I must wait 2 days for my money, my business is gone. The taxi can't operate anymore. And that's why traditional banking can't work for taxis and emerging markets. So then we thought, okay, now whatever we do, it needs to be the same like cash. It needs to be as convenient as cash. But are we going to build an app? When we started speaking to commuters and taxi drivers, nobody wants more apps on their phone. People are telling us that they'll delete their banking app when their phone says it's full, but they'll never delete WhatsApp.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah. They were using WhatsApp for not just communication, but we looked at our target market of people going to work every single day with a taxi. They have to communicate to say, pick up the child from creche, or I'm coming home late, or look for me outside, I'm getting out of the taxi now, I must still walk home. You must know, you must sometimes in our areas need to watch when your spouse or family member comes up from the taxi to see if they're okay, because even that walk home is dangerous. So with that reality, we thought, since people are all using WhatsApp, can we build our payments platform on WhatsApp? So we did. We then made an instant payments no bank charges system where you can pay via text on WhatsApp. We started using this for the minibus taxis, and then two things happened to our business because of this. Number one, this opened up an entire new industry for the taxis. Before, taxis didn't have access to corporates because a corporate wouldn't come to a taxi rank and say, here's 10,000 and cash, can I hire a taxi for a day? Because taxis are receiving digital payments. Corporates are now able to book taxis for their staff transport. That made us refine the corporate mobility service, where we looked at how do we book the right taxi for the right staff, how do we make sure the right staff gets into the right areas, how do we make sure the taxis are vetted, PDP, charter permit, they're part of an association, that they have all the reports so that they can be compliant to serve more customers better. That happened. The taxis are happy because when you're on the loop system, you don't just earn your normal money that you get during the day, you also earn all this corporate money. And in the last year, we've been able to redistribute over 50 million back into the taxi industry that would have gone to corporate clients. That's the one thing. The other thing that happened was when people started paying the taxi drivers via WhatsApp, they started asking us, but I've also got a side business. I sell sisters on a Sunday, or I do things. I do it. Can I also get paid like this? Because they told us stories of someone does somebody's nails, they finish doing the nails, and the person says, I don't have cash.
Yeah.
How now? Or the shops around the taxi rank, they're busy selling this stuff, and they say people come to them, and the people ask, do you have a card machine?
Yeah.
How is now this person on the side of the road going to go buy a card machine? So because of that cost, we thought, how do we solve and make this more inclusive? We then partnered with Visa, and we were able to make a system where you can tap to your own phone to make payments. So with Loop, if you run a business or starting a business or want to build a business, all you need is your cell phone. People can pay you via tap to phone. People can pay you via WhatsApp. You don't have to worry about how is my customer going to pay me, because people are moving away from cash. That's the reality. Just that certain markets were stuck, not because they couldn't get with the times, but they were stuck because what the times was giving them wasn't suitable for them. So traditional banking didn't suit the emerging market, so it wasn't a product that could be used by the emerging market effectively. You go to a barber shop, you buy 5 and 8 and the barber charge you 10 rand because you're going to pay with card. And that's why people would rather than use the cash, because I'm going to say this, it's expensive to be poor.
Yeah.
When you're poor, you pay more for items, your cost per kilogram is more because you must buy small packages. The barber shop with card payments is more. It's not a good life to be poor because your expenses are even more.
Yeah.
And we're trying to say, how do we get involved where we can enhance people's lives, where we can solve in the space? Because there's no need to be using the bankings for these payments. The other thing that happened for us that made this great for small businesses and for taxi entrepreneurs is because you work in a digital space now. Not just is your money safe, people can't rob you now from your money, but you now have a digital footprint in your finances which can give you access to finance. Before, because you're working in cash, a taxi driver can't go to the bank and ask for a loan. Same with a small business entrepreneur. You go to the bank, you know you're doing your sales every single day. You're selling by cash. You go to the bank says, but where's your track record? A taxi driver is churning through lots of money every single day. Go to the bank, can't. Where must they go? Loan shark. Borrow 50 rand, pay back 100 rand. I would say it's exploitation is what's really going on.
Yeah.
And what we then done with Loop, we looked at how do we, by using the information we have, by utilizing technology, by knowing this is how much income this person has, and not just a case of past income, like the banks use 3 months bank statement, but using 3 months bank statement means if I lose my job today, or if I lose my income today, there's a risk for the bank because you only look at my past income, not my future income. Whereas with Loop, because we have the corporate mobility services, we're able to pre-book taxi trips for the driver. We can tell you before the time how much money we're going to pay you because we already pre-booked these trips, which means it's easier for us to give access to finance because there's less risk on our hands because we know the money's coming in.
Yeah.
And this helped our taxi drivers because there's even a story of a driver that mentioned how when starting with Loop, he was starting to earn more money. Very proud, him and his girlfriend was able to get their own Wendy house at the back by somebody. We were also very excited for them because they were able to move out to their family house. And it was going well in the beginning. And maybe 2 weeks later, He saw the company and said, "Yo, it's expensive to live alone." True. But the problem was, in his case, he got the Wendy house. He didn't have a fridge. He didn't have a microwave. He didn't have an oven. And he had to take out takeouts every single day
Mm,
because they didn't have the basics in that Wendy
mm,
house. And then he even told us he wanted to go to Haifa Corporation. He asked, can you get the items on account? They didn't want to give him the stuff on account
mm, mm.
because he didn't have a record. He came to
Yeah.
us. We were able to help him. And we were able to help him get that fridge and the microwave and the oven. Because if you weren't able to get that, your expenses buying takeouts every day. Just because I remember also when I moved into my first apartment, I also didn't have a fridge. My mother still, I left my mama's house and she gave me ice cream, a tub of ice cream. The tub of ice cream didn't last because I didn't have a place to put the ice cream.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was living out of a cooler box. I had to get the cooler box. I was living out of a cooler box. The milk was going sour. The things was going off just because I didn't have a fridge. And it's
Mm,
such a thing we all take for granted when you come from privilege to look at what
mm.
it's like for someone that doesn't have these items. So I understand what it's like to help people get there because
Yeah.
I've been there. And that's how we really looked at building this up. And this, your second question was, why did I get into this? It wasn't by choice that I got into mobility. It was a case of there's a bigger picture here, and
Mm,
my inert feeling towards South Africa is how do I develop more entrepreneurs? How do I create more jobs? How do I make people more sustainable in their livelihood? Because we all complain here, oh, there's no jobs, there's no work. And I feel that the creation of jobs
yeah.
mustn't come from government. We're pointing fingers at them and saying, oh, where's our jobs? But the truth is, if we can build more entrepreneurs, we can create more businesses that can hire more people. And Loop now, we started with 3 people. Loop now has over 50 staff that's working full time
Well
as a
done.
full 24-hour business. Besides the taxis
Yeah.
and the taxi buses that we also enabling and the spaza shops as small businesses. So this is why I'm doing this. This is why I got into this industry because I can see the bigger picture.
Wow, Jamie, I'm feeling like a bit of goosebumps. It's such an inspirational story. I lived in an area where, and this resonates so much with me because I lived in an area where 2 houses away on the corner was the uncle and the auntie who was managing their own taxi business, and they also had their little spaza shop, their house shop, because in our communities you can't walk too far without seeing a little house shop and a spaza shop. And the taxi industry is something that it's not something that I know very well, but it's something that was just in my face, constantly because of the neighbors that we had that lived that had the operated their own taxi business. How did you manage to convince the taxi operators or the taxi owners or Imtiaz? I think Imtiaz is obviously the one that came from the industry who saw the need, but how did you convince others to sign up to this?
I like that question because I feel if you really solve a problem, you don't need much convincing. But the big thing that was the big advantage for us is that we want people coming from outside trying to solve for an industry that we saw there's an opportunity. We want people from the inside that
Yeah,
experienced what's going on and realized, hey, this doesn't have to go on like this. We can change this. And that's where Imtiaz and his background in the taxis come from. That's where in my space I've got family friends. My parents were friends with taxi owners, the taxi association, chair people.
yeah,
Imtiaz also, it's the other taxi association members, people they called uncle and auntie. They grew up with him, so
yeah,
it was more a case of coming from the inside, solving this. But when it comes to business, I thought when Imtiaz came to me first, I thought that the reason why taxis are working in cash is because they're trying to avoid tax. A lot of people are thinking the
yeah.
same thing.
That's
Taxi
what
drivers don't want to pay
everyone
tax.
thinks.
That's why they're working in cash.
Yeah.
When I
Mm,
started investigating, when I started asking the questions, they don't. Some drivers don't even know what is what is tax. They know it
mm,
exists, but they've never done it before. And
mm,
what we realized, it's not a case of tax. It's just a case of if I use banking, I'm going to pay more. Why must
mm,
I pay more? It's a no-brainer. Who in the right mind will choose wait 2 days and pay charges versus
Mm.
get my money right now. What
Mm.
business, what emerging market business would
Mm.
want to choose that? I know
Yeah.
for corporates, because of compliance, they can't take cash. So they choose, I'm going to take the risk and wait and pay the charges. And that's what more affluent people do. If you have proper bank accounts, you can do those things. But in the global majority, where most of our people are living hand to mouth, most of our people are trying to save as much as they
Mm.
can. Some can't even save money. This
Mm.
is where charges becomes, even that 1 rand charge per transaction becomes an expense. 1 rand every day,
Mm.
twice a day.
Yeah.
That's 60 rand.
Yeah.
60 rand is 2 loaves of bread, 3 loaves of bread. I'll rather have the bread than to pay
Absolutely.
that money.
Yeah.
So I think what
Yeah.
was really convincing for us is not the case of, oh, let's convince people to try this. It was a case of understanding what are the issues in the industry, and can we as a company not say buy our product, but how can we work with you to solve these issues? We've been
Mm.
very customer focused and customer centric. We more on the case of co-creating, so we listen to
Yeah.
what the customer's needs are, and by understanding the needs of the taxi owners and taxi bosses and their desire to formalize, because one big thing that we see is a big issue on them is buses, trains, all get subsidies from government. But
Yeah.
80% of commuters are using taxis.
Yeah.
Majority of the commuters are using minibus taxis, no subsidy from government for taxis. Why?
Oh,
Government
wow.
says because you can't formalize. With our
Got
systems
it.
now, it does create some sense of formalization, which can be appealed to government to say, here we go, we are now registered businesses, we are now proper associations, here is our income coming through, here is how we manage our clients, here is how we do reporting, we can be formalized, we can get subsidies. We're then working with the City of Cape Town and UCT, with Hanifa Gilby. And what we're doing there is some research in how do we make each taxi driver and each taxi boss understand that they actually are a business. So instead of taking them
Mm.
as a taxi industry, taking them as an SMME or a small business, and then go into government and say, look, I'm not just a taxi driver, I'm actually a business. Because
Yeah.
government subsidizes businesses freely. It's easy to subsidize a business than to subsidize a taxi driver.
Mm.
And that's the approach we're using with government now to show them, here's my records, here's my PE certificate, here's my business registration. I am a business, and now I can apply for the subsidies. And that's the formalization that we needed before. And that's why
Yeah.
it was an easy convince. Yes, there are some people that are skeptical, like anything, but in any
Yeah.
startup business, you have this S curve of your early adopters, your people start picking up, and then everyone starts using it. We're now at
Yeah.
the stage where people are picking up. Because when I come to you and tell you first, you can pay via WhatsApp, your taxi, we get two reactions. Some people think, oh, wow, let's try it. Other people think, no, this is a scam.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is definitely a scam. Until we
Yeah.
physically show them that you can literally make a payment with no bank charges via WhatsApp. And we can't help people for thinking it's a scam because we've got so much scams all around.
It's
WhatsApp,
all over.
AI videos, and
Yeah.
I would say I don't mind if someone's going to be skeptical over things, because rather be
Yeah.
skeptical and see that it works than to just accept everything and then lose all your money. And especially with us, we don't have a lot of money to lose. I'm not going to
Yeah.
risk it. So we've
Exactly.
got ambassadors on the floor.
Mm.
What we actually did, speaking of convincing, it wasn't the taxi boss we had to convince. We also had to convince the customers, the taxi commuters.
I was gonna ask you how does it work? Because I can just imagine, to your point, everybody thinks they're being scammed,
Yes.
and click this link. Everybody tells you do not click any links. So how does it actually work for the customer?
I think it was actually quite funny. We started making ambassadors. Taxi drivers were becoming our ambassadors. We put them in a Loop T-shirt. We told them drive your taxi. We branded the taxi with the Loop logo. We enabled the taxi, and then they said, "Oh, the people don't want to pay via Loop." Until some people are doing it amazingly. Then the taxis that we left on their own as ambassadors, we told them what to say to people, how to do it. Then we went to go ourselves to find out by the people what's going on. The people were telling us, when the driver asked me, do I have a phone? I think he's going to rob me. So I just said I don't have a phone. Until we realized that sometimes the approach of a taxi driver doesn't fit the right
Yeah.
approach for the commuters. So we started building ambassadors inside the taxi. As we started finding the regular customers, and we offered them ambassadorship to say, can you show your peers how to use Loop? And that's what happened.
Yeah.
Because we know we can't be in every single taxi. But the
Sure.
commuters are taking a taxi every single day. So we identified a few
Yeah.
commuters. We asked them, Would you like to be part of our ambassadorship program? We even kind of pay them a bit, the taxi fare, to say, here's a little credit for you, so you can show people how to use Loop. And that is where peer-to-peer trust is how we
Yeah.
really gain some more traction in the community. Because now once your people that are skeptical sees it actually works, they start using it as well. And now people aren't just using Loop for once-off payments, or they didn't start using Loop for once-off payments. They start loading funds onto the Loop account, and they're using
Okay.
Loop as a budgeting tool. They know,
Okay.
which I thought was very interesting. We thought that we put in
Yeah.
this digital payments to stop people from being robbed. But the truth is, people are being robbed by themselves, because when they spend 100 Rand by the taxi, that money falls through their fingers. When you break
Yeah.
100 Rand, the 100 Rand is gone. Because they
Yeah.
knew in the beginning of the month they had enough money for taxi fare for the whole month. But because they get a small change, they buy things here, buy things there, it's easier to spend the money. And what they did instead was, when they put their whole taxi fare on Loop, because when it comes to the week before payday, some people have to borrow money to go to work. But now
Mm.
when they put their whole taxi fare on the Loop system on WhatsApp, in the Loop wallet, they have their taxi fare for the month, and they sort it. So it was a case of
Wow.
protecting their money and being able to better budget the taxi fee.
Yeah.
And that's what the community started doing, that we've observed.
Yeah. So I think the one thing that I think is important what you did was, because again, me also, I have this misconception, I think, based on listening to you, that people just want to deal with their cash. They do not want to swipe their cards because of card fees and all sorts of things. And of course, the taxi industry don't want to be using any other alternative, but it's a huge misconception. And I think what stands out for me is just your research, talking to people, going into the community, talking to whoever it is that your ecosystem is and servicing, and actually understanding what the challenge is and what the resistance looks like, and real time what it is. Because I think we live with so much misconception that it sometimes also hinders us from actually being innovative in the right way. So I really like the approach that you've taken, and I think you're right. It's very easy when it's a problem that you know is there. It's a problem that you are in, and it's a problem that you solve. But one of the other things that I think stands out for me, and it came through when I was speaking to Kani previously, is this thing of complexity and cutting out complexity and simplifying it. And it sounds like this is quite a simple solution for both the customer, for example, in the taxi operators and the taxi owners, and corporates.
It does make it very simple, and that's the case of the user experience. And like you said, because we've done the research, we're able to understand what the actual needs are. We also ask what you like, what you don't like. What I say is
Yeah,
pains and gains. What pains you, and what do you enjoy doing? So that our
yeah,
job is to create painkillers and gain creators. And that's how
yeah,
we move in with the business. The research is very
yeah.
important.
Yeah. This thing that you said, it's expensive to be poor. That really kind of hit me. Because I've never really looked at it like that. Um, just that really is something. When you say it's
I'll say
expensive to be poor,
do
just
a
just
simple
talk to
experiment.
that.
Just do a simple experiment. You go to the shop, you see the small packet of sugar is 20 Rand, which means it works out to like whatever, 50 Rand a kilo or something for sugar. Then you see the big packet of sugar, it's 30 Rand. So double the size of sugar, but you're not doubling the price. But because I don't
Yeah,
have a lot of money, I have to keep buying the small packet of sugar. And
yeah,
that's the thing of being poor. Because I don't have enough money to buy the big packet of sugar, I have to spend more money buying the small packet of sugar every time. I must run to the shop, quickly buy a small packet of sugar. And just in that simple terms, you can see how people that can afford that 100 big packet of sugar is spending less, saving more money on the same product than what someone else has to spend multiple packs of sugar. So that's a
yeah,
simple thing of looking at how expensive it is to be poor. The other thing is your risk profile. Not just talking about sugar now, but if you go to the
yeah,
bank and because you earn
yeah,
less, the bank will charge you more interest. The bank will charge you. They'll pack on
yeah,
because look, the bank has a risk. But then you
yeah,
get a rich person. The bank says, "Please come bank by us. Please come take out a loan. We'll give you
yeah,
negative prime. We'll give you So having more wealth does give you more opportunity, and I can't call it unfair, but it doesn't add up. But I can't blame the banks for doing that, because the banks look at a high-profile customer and say, if I'll make more money off this customer than the poorer customer, but also the high-profile customer can buy more products from me. So I want this customer, so I'm going to charge him small less and give him bonuses. If I look at a simple thing, a celebrity, I think it's so strange, no? So they earn so much money, but then everyone want to give them free stuff. It's the same concept. The more popular you are, they get the influencer marketing, they get all. Then the poor people must go buy this that they advertising, but they got all the stuff for free, and they're the ones earning the money. And that's it's a thing in the world. It's almost like pretty privilege, basically. We treat the one differently, we treat the other. If you look at the butterfly, oh look, a nice butterfly. Then you see a moth. Oh, get this thing out of my sight. That's exactly the same thing. But it's a case of because of the financial difference, that you're just stuck in certain problems. And that's why I really think it is a case of being expensive to be poor.
Yeah. It also, I think the interesting part here is that you've created a solution, and then it kind of expanded, because now the hairdresser that's sitting in the taxi taking a taxi ride is now understanding, oh, there's a different option here for me now. Because to your point, we prefer cash, but we don't like the danger that comes with it, or the perceived danger that comes with having cash on our person. So I think that's quite an inspirational story for me as well, where it's expanding into. It started with the taxi industry, but it's just expanding, and it's applicable to the informal sector in its entirety.
No, that's so true. When we started this, we didn't realize that we're building for the emerging market, but we couldn't. When we started doing more research, we realized, if I'm going to digitize the taxis, I can't leave the spaza shops and the shops around the taxi rank out of it. Because now, if I am someone that's taking a taxi and using cash, I'm going to draw the money at the ATM. I now need to go buy potatoes on the side of the road, and I still have to use cash. Because that person on the side of the road, I can't buy from them unless I use cash. Yet my taxi is now digital. So we have to be inclusive and realize the whole thing is one ecosystem. I can't just digitize taxis. I need to digitize taxis. I need to digitize the shops by the taxi rank. I need to enable the people along the route. And that's where it's grown. It's been our mandate to make sure people are educated enough to be digitized. And the growth isn't just here in the Western Cape. I'm actually proud of what we've been able to achieve. We've grown. We've got an office in Joburg now as well. We started going to other countries: Kenya, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Algeria, Egypt, and we see that there's need. Germany, the UAE, America. We expanded to Africa first, but we realized the need for an alternative payment system isn't just something here on our streets, but it's a global problem. The emerging market is everywhere, and it's not just the emerging market. We've got corporates coming to us, people with big money coming to us and saying, we also want to use it because we also don't have to pay bank charges. So even though we started with taxis, because we understood the problem and we built an alternative solution, that same solution can work for other people as well. And it might have been not our primary goal, but we have to also build a utility. We couldn't just build something randomly and say, who's this for? We first had to find the customer and then build according to the customer's needs. And that customer started off being the taxis.
Yeah. So talking about, scaling and partnerships. So you partnered with big players like Visa, for example, and scaling. Let's talk about scaling a little bit. How does scaling affect the informal sector? Does it risk formalizing it in a way where they lose their flexibility? Or does it just offer this bridge you spoke about earlier? I now can say I have a business. I'm not just a hustler, I have a business.
I feel if you're going to scale in a way that's going to hinder your business, then you're not scaling. So we shouldn't be doing anything that's going to make a business worse. Like, just choose the stuff that's good for your business. In our case of scaling, the partners you're working with, in Visa's case, for instance, Visa doesn't have a footprint in the emerging market because everyone, when they get paid into their bank account, they pull that money out of their bank account as soon as it happens. because everyone accepts cash in the emerging market, but not everyone accepts card payments. Visa, however, wants to have more visibility so that they can offer more services. They want to be able to offer loans or access to finance and these things through their banking networks. They want to enable card payments. So they want people to keep the money in their bank accounts. They partner with us because they say, Loop that has the footprint, and if you are going to enable digital, just even by saying use your phone, it's one step closer to keeping your money in the bank account. That's their goal. It is a very profit-focused goal because they are a big corporate business. They want to make money, and they make money when people keep the money in the bank accounts. What we also realized with them is what we told them, you can't just, and they know this, you can't just say, you must now use this product. What we asked and what they've offered is financial education. When speaking to taxi drivers, when speaking to sponsorship owners, when speaking to small businesses, how do we give you more financial education to understand how to scale your business? The better you can scale your business, the more you can hire more people, there's more jobs to be created, there's more business for you and more money for you. So we then got content from Visa around financial education. We told them, thank you for the content, Visa, but the way you wrote this fancy words isn't going to work on people.
Yeah.
So we then rewrote Visa's content and made it 3 simple parts. How to do a budget, simple fundamentals, your month to month, your day to day. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't have budgets, but if you just make a clear indication of where your money is going, because if you ask someone, where you got paid, where's your money? Come the second week of the month, you can ask me also sometimes, where's your money? I don't even know where my money went. So having a budget helps just to have a clear outline of what happens to your money. You can see where your expenses are, you can see where things are going. That's part of the course. Within a very important part, understanding credit score. Not a lot of people understand how the credit score works. You can't get access to finance because you don't understand the tips and tricks with credit score. Certain things like, if they tell you you have 100,000 Rand to spend, don't use the whole 100,000 Rand. Use only 30% max, because the more money you use, it's going to affect your credit score. When it comes to paying things back, when it comes to opening accounts, we gave those little tips of how to enhance and enable your credit score to grow up that credit score. Then the third section of the course was, how do I purchase an item sooner than later? And this is items we feel is best for your business. An example of this would be, I'm running a coffee shop and I need a milkshake machine, right? A blender. If I notice according to my budget that I can buy this blender in 6 months' time because I can save up enough to buy the blender. Then I notice on my credit score that I can get 5,000 Rand credit, or just 1,000 Rand credit. The blender maybe costs 2,000 Rand. So what's good for business, and that's what the rich people do, they don't use their credit to go to TFG and to go to whatever and to go buy liquor clothes to impress people. They use their credit to buy items for their business because they realize, if I have one milkshake machine, it costs me 2,000 Rand, but I can bring in 2,000 Rand every single month by selling milkshakes, or even 2,000 Rand a day by selling milkshakes. So if I take out 1,000 Rand loan, I save 1,000 Rand, I can buy the milkshake machine now versus only buying the milkshake machine in 6 months. I can make enough money to pay off the milkshake machine in 2 months' time. And that's the kind of thinking we have to get into businesses where, because I was taught that debt is bad. I was taught that loans is bad. But it's how you use a loan that makes it bad. If you use a loan to impress people, you're going to go nowhere with that. You're going to just be in debt and pay people off. But if you use a loan smart and work it out to say, this is what our business needs to scale, where I can get everything that I need up close and I can make the money off those items now. That is a smart way to use loans, because this is what the rich people do. They go to the bank, they use other people's money to make more money for them. They pay off the bank, but they also make money at the same time. So there's a smart way of using loans. And first of all, understanding your budget, understanding your credit score, and then being able to know how to save up for an asset is the course that we put together in financial education to enable more entrepreneurs, not just the taxi drivers, also the small businesses, to show how do I succeed. What we had with that course last year, we had over 5,500 participants take part in the course, successfully completed, got a certificate, and they are now able to scale their business even further. So scaling, first of all, scaling must be for the benefit of your business. You can't scale and say, this is going to hinder my business. If it's going to hinder your business, that isn't scale. Secondly, understand what does your business need to scale. In our case, we looked at how do we engage with the customers, but our engagement with customers isn't just direct of saying use our service, Our engagement with the customers was a case of we need to educate, we need to empower, we need to give out tools we're building to these customers to show them how to make it work. And that's how we've been doing our scaling. And we also definitely open for partnerships. Partnerships really help scale. Visa is a good partner, Apps is a partner, RDEVs is a partner, 22 and Sloan is a partner. And we want to be open to more institutions to say, come forward, we can give you our tech for free. We can give you the WhatsApp payments for free. Let your people use this. And then we can also help in financial education. We can help get more users. We can look at doing workshops, talks. There's more engagement in that because this is going to help us scale our business. Our mandate is more customers, more usage, more trips for taxis.
And this upskilling, so how open is the informal sector to upskilling? Because I think they from a growth perspective, an individual growth perspective, the more we can learn and the more we can grow, the better off we are. How open are these informal traders to upskilling, and who are some of the other partners that you'd like to be partnering with from an upskilling and skills development perspective?
So I'll say this, learning isn't for everybody. If somebody came to me and said, don't you want to do this extra course? I might think twice. But the case is, how much value does it bring to me? Because we realize with the emerging market, if we show them the value, not saying do this course, why must I do that course? Why must I know how to budget? Why must I know how to do whatever? But if I say, if you're able to do this course, it means this is how I can help your business. And it's a case of explaining what the outcome is instead of explaining the journey. I don't have to tell you, you must do this course. I must tell you, this is what you get. And by changing the words, that's how the people that are more reluctant to want to try things can say, okay, let me actually go see what's going on here. There are people that says, yes, give me the courses. I want to upskill my life because they understand that by educating, you're going to get more opportunities. But I can't blame people that say, I don't have time for a course, because the truth is, as an entrepreneur, when I'm running a shop, where must I find the time to leave my shop, to go to a workshop? Who's going to run our business? If I even look at one of the people who work with Sassy Bakes, amazing baker, beautiful cakes. We ran an in-person workshop. She wasn't able to attend. We might think, no, she's not serious. She doesn't want to be part of these things. The truth is, who's going to bake the cakes if she's here in this workshop? Who's going to serve our customers? And what a lot of people don't understand that have corporate jobs. An entrepreneur, if I do not work today, I do not get paid. If you have a corporate job, you get your 9 to 5, you can come late to work, you can get a sick day, you can take maternity leave. If you're an entrepreneur, who's paying you when you have maternity leave? Who's paying you on your sick day? If you're not working, you're not getting paid. So we do understand that. So we had to look at how do we redesign the way we deliver the content. So it's not the case of someone having to come and sit here a whole day to learn these things. We put our content online. So in your own time as an entrepreneur, you can go through the content. There's a little online assessment. You can do the little test, clicking the buttons and going through all on your phone. And it's really a case of not thinking people don't want to. It's a case of, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get away from my business. I don't want to risk not earning an income by doing something else. I don't have the luxury of sitting in a workshop all day to come in and do a course. So these people that definitely want it and they come to the courses because they have the ability to be here. But when it comes to the actual workers on the ground, the actual entrepreneurs, we had to change how we deliver it for them to get more involved. And that's also a case of understanding their needs without us judging, thinking they don't want to grow their business. It's a case of understanding, why can't you come? I can't come because I'm busy working.
Yeah. And I think the point comes back to it's understanding, right? We have so many misconceptions about whatever it is we're engaging in. And I think one of the misconceptions when people don't attend the training is they, like you say, they're not serious. But again, it's such a simple point you're making. This is a different way of running a business. And to your point, if I'm not there to run the business, if I'm not there to bake the cakes will not get baked. So it's a very valid point you make there, just from understanding the economy that you're dealing with, understanding the customer that you're dealing with, without these misconceptions. And I think one of the big things I'm taking away from this conversation again is just, don't go in with your assumptions, because often your assumptions are incorrect. What do you think are some of the biggest barriers preventing the informal sector from then moving towards more formalized enterprise? And from a technology perspective, where does technology at the moment fall short, if it does?
Technology is for the rich. Technology doesn't understand the customers. Technology is built by people that don't understand the customers. So technology falls short, not because of the tech and the capability of tech. Technology falls short on the knowledge of the people building the technology. So if you don't understand your customers, and if you want to serve the emerging market, you need to understand it to build tech for them. But one thing I can say, where scaling the business in the emerging market is difficult, the paperwork, the compliance, the accounting. Because if I'm a baker, I don't know how to do my taxes. I know how to make this cake. And this is the thing where we see in the emerging market. I maybe know how to sell sweets in my spaza shop. I maybe know how to drive a taxi. But I'm not the one that knows how to do my budget. I'm not the one that knows how to market my business. I can't do my social media. And a lot of times entrepreneurs feel they must do all of this. They must be the accountant, they must be the customer service person, they must be the social media expert. And you don't get to spend time on your business. I believe focus on what you're good at. And where I think our culture must change, I've seen this in some cultures, I don't see it in some cultures, is being open to work together. We're so fearful that someone's going to steal my idea, that someone's going to steal my business. We don't allow people into our space and realize that there are other people that can do this work with us and for us. Someone that can have the same amount of passion as you can work together and achieve what you need to achieve. For instance, if you look at the corporate, you have your CEO, you have your CXO, you have got your chief of this and chief of that and chief of this. Then you've got your staff and your managers and all this. If they can't trust each other, you can't have a business. But because of the scarcity mentality in our environment, people think there's not enough because you don't see enough around you. Get out, Maisa, get out, girl. Go look what's happening in the rich areas. It's not the case of scarcity. There is enough money in the world. And what I feel needs to happen is people need to be exposed to the truth of money. We think money doesn't exist because we grow up in our little homes where we see people being poor, people being hand to mouth. And if that mindset changes and that narrative of scarcity changes, people become more open to partnerships, people become more open to sharing their ideas, and there's more growth. If I look at, I was in Dubai a couple of months ago, and what I realized about what makes Dubai so great, it's not the case that, oh, they come from money. They were poor in Dubai. They didn't look like us, like it looks there, it looked worse than us. And in the same amount of time that when South Africa got our democracy and Dubai started building, they got their oil money, yes, but a lot of infrastructure development in Dubai now isn't because of the oil money. It's because of how open they are to collaboration, how open they are to foreigners, even. Because here we have xenophobia, because we think foreigners are going to take our jobs. It's not the case of taking our jobs. They are spotting opportunities that we are not spotting. We were first preference to spot opportunity, but we're not taking it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong to give foreigners work, but if I look at what happened in Dubai, because they were so open to the new minds to come in, there's a lot of South Africans working in Dubai also. There's a new way of perspective. So I'm bringing an example to show if you start being open to different ways of thinking, different cultures, different mindsets, you start creating different ways of solving problems. Because sometimes with us, we're so stuck in our circle. We only think in one direction about to solve this problem. Now you bring someone else that comes from a different setting, completely different culture, different mindset, and that's how things can change. And I feel for us as South Africans, we need to change that mindset, change the scarcity mindset, change that fear of sharing ideas. Because I'm telling you the truth, there's enough money in the world. It's not it's not that there isn't money. Sorry, I just my battery's gonna die on my laptop. Let me get my charger in the meantime.
Sure. I like that. I like this. It's again, we're coming back to, this mindset shift that needs to happen. And I really like the concept of shifting our mindset in this economy in particular, shifting our mindset just to understand that collaboration is not an enemy, and that people aren't out here trying to steal our jobs or out here trying to take away from us. That within the collaboration, we can actually grow and we can actually become better. So I really, really like that. And again, like I say, the theme just of the mindset shift happening is coming through for me this morning again. And again, I'll say not making assumptions, but actually doing the homework and doing the research. I'd like to just talk a bit about, you know, your experience now with job creation, because I think we spoke earlier about the fact that Loop now, it started with kind of one customer in mind, and it's kind of expanded into other things. The informal economy obviously is a major source of job creation. So how do you see Loop helping to shift the informal work into more sustainable jobs or enterprises?
So yeah, I also want to say collaboration. Jobs doesn't have to come from the emerging market alone, but how does corporates get involved? Because the
Yeah.
truth is, corporates need the work to get done. We've got the whole workforce in the emerging market. There's people that are skilled, there's people that are unskilled, there's people that are going to be trained, and then you have people, I'm going to say the people with money. And it's easy for us amongst ourselves to sell our products. But what we realized at Loop, when we started opening up our corporate services, the money started flowing. We were able to do more, we were able to get more, we had more money to work with, we had bigger clients. So being able to create more jobs is also by understanding who, let me say this thing that happens in law. In law, they say when you want to sue someone, sue the person with the most money. So I would say the same thing in business. If you want to make money, find the customer. Find your ideal customer with the most money. Where is that customer? So yes, you can do the masses. And the truth is, in the taxi industry, because of the massive numbers, there's a lot of multi-billion rand industry because of the massive numbers. But to convince each and every single person to become a customer is difficult. However, if you can get one big customer that can give you, if I'm looking for 1 billion and I must talk to 1 billion people, I'll rather talk to one person that can give me 1 million than to talk to one person that's going to give me 1 rand. It's easier. It's an easier conversation. So that's where I see the shift in creating and enabling things in the emerging market. Upskilling is one thing. People mustn't be afraid to get upskilled. You have AI now, you got YouTube, you got whatever. When you come home, I know you're tired. I know you must cook the food. I know you must see to the kids. I know you must do all these things. But take 10 minutes. You can watch your soapy. But 10 minutes on your phone to see how does this work? How does tech work? How does investment work? How does savings work? How does AI work? How does find something that you feel is interesting for you and see how do I just learn a little bit a day about this industry? Because just by having that interest, it's not the case of I'm going to be an expert tomorrow, but because you have it on your mind, when you start engaging with other people, that interest might come through. You might speak to the right person about the right thing, and it opens the right door. But if you just say, "Oh, did you see what happened yesterday on Seven the Land?" It doesn't always open the same opportunity as, "Oh, I just learned how to use AI. I just learned how to do my work faster." And yes, our interests are different. But and if you are complacent in saying what happened on TV last night, if that's fine. If you're comfortable, go for it. But if you're someone that's trying to make it, if you feed yourself with certain types of knowledge to put you in the right spaces, you never know who you're going to engage with. I think networking is so important. You never know who you're going to talk to. You could be working in the restaurant, and because you learned coding, and now you're serving someone in the restaurant, there's Elon Musk, there's Mark Zuckerberg in the restaurant with you. They could take you, but if you just say, "Oh, this is all that I have to offer," so it's more case from the emerging side is making yourself a bit more useful for yourself and for bigger career opportunities. And that's where I think careers need to grow. You can also just be, and even keep in a career. If you're not going to keep learning in your career, you're going to become obsolete. We're now in the AI age. If you don't know how to use AI, unfortunately, AI is not going to go away. And AI isn't coming for your job. It's not AI that's coming for your job. It's the person that's using AI that's coming for your job.
I love
Because
that.
if you don't understand how to use it, you're going to be left behind. Because if you come to me and say, I can do the work in 5 minutes, or some other can take a whole month to do the same job. I'm going to hire the person who can do it in 5 minutes. That's the truth as a business person. And
Yeah.
people, the fear of AI, but it's not the AI you must fear. It's the lack of knowledge of understanding AI that you must fear. If you don't understand how to use it, you're not going to be able to grow and flourish with everybody else.
Okay, so keep yourself upskilled, but also this very important topic of just, the responsibility of corporates within South Africa. We live in a very beautiful country. It's a complex country. And within South Africa, we have many, many corporates, many, many successful corporates, and there is a responsibility of the corporates to assist in whichever way they can when it comes to the economy just in general. And I think this is a very good example of how corporates have enabled, this thing to grow. So that's also a beautiful story there.
No, definitely, I agree with you there. I think corporates do have a big responsibility, and corporates, they have the responsibility, but they also do it to tick boxes. And I don't care what their reason is for the BE score, for the ticking boxes to feel good about
Yeah.
themselves, as long as they are doing
Yeah.
it.
So just if you were to speak to policymakers and you were to advise policymakers or industry leaders about integrating the informal economy via tech, what are the 2 or 3 essential things you'd propose?
So I actually spoke in Parliament last week, Friday, I think it was, or last week, Thursday. And they did the annual report in mobility. I listened. And what I spoke about was exactly this when it comes to policymakers. There's a big disconnect between the policymaker and the people they're making the policy for. Yes, you can use tech.
Okay.
You can definitely use tech. But using tech without empathy makes you build nonsense. If you do not understand the customers you're making policies for, if I can't call them customers, this is the people you're serving. If you don't understand the people you're serving, if you don't understand their problems and their needs, if you do not ask them the questions, you're going to make policy for the sake of policy making. You're going to make things worse. That's why the people go against your policies, because you didn't understand why the policy is there. So number one necessary thing is, before you build tech, before you create policy, before you make law, is have empathy. Go and approach the people you're trying to serve. Go and understand the people you're trying to serve. Understand what they're doing, why they're doing, how they're doing it. And don't come in from a point of view of, this is what we want to do and we want to force this to happen. Come from a point of view of, leave your ideology behind first. Come and, I would say, live and experience the people first. And use that empathy to understand, like we do, what's your pains, what's your gains, what's your pain creators, what's your gain creators, what's the jobs to be done, who is the customer I'm trying to serve. Number one thing is empathy. Then I can look at tech. Then I can say, now when I say tech, yes, you can use technology, but what I mean by this is, how do I make it better? Yes, you can have the empathy, but now I need to understand the other ingredient is, how do I improve this? And with improvement is not to become complacent. If I start thinking, oh, I'm good enough, girl, you're not going to be, in a couple of years' time, you're not going to be good enough. And there's loads of examples like this with businesses that thought they were quiet and thought we did enough. And that's all. Look at examples, blockbuster videos. I'm sure we can remember when you used to go hire videos. The kids now don't know what hiring videos is. But Netflix came to Blockbuster videos and said, Blockbuster, we've got this streaming service. We want to be able to, people can watch videos on demand. Blockbuster said, people are always going to hire videos. We don't need your streaming service. No one's going to want to watch videos like that. That's not going to work. Blockbuster closed down. Everyone's got Netflix. And that's when someone thinks you need to keep what's next. Even with Loop, we're doing our day to day. But we also have a balance of, what do we build in next? We're doing biometrics. We're doing pay with palm. We're looking at what's the next thing to build. Yes, we still have to be here. But the definite thing is, what's next coming for us? How do we not become complacent? How do we keep learning? How do we keep growing? How do we better serve by using tech, using non-tech, whatever it is, we need to be able to serve. So I think my ingredients kind of all mixes together in a sense that to do the one thing, you need the other thing. To build tech, to build policy, you need to have empathy. You need to understand, not to be complacent, and you need to be able to do what is good and what is right and move forward. So that's,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's real ingredients for you, but but I feel it's kind of
That's
important.
Yes, and it's giving me goosebumps. I loved what you said about empathy, and I think it's part of the reason why Loop is successful. You led with empathy. You led with wanting to understand. You led with wanting to understand the problem, and you led with wanting to understand the solution from the perspective of the people who will be using your product. And you're solving the problem. You're solving the problem, and you're solving problems that people didn't even know they had. So, Jamie, we need to wrap. This is such an inspirational conversation. I really love the work that you're doing and love the impact that you're making within just the lives of normal people in South Africa. Thank you very much for your time this morning. And I'm going to be downloading the Loop app as well and see how I can be using the Loop app
There's no
either
need to
in my
download.
personal capacity as a. Yeah.
It's
There's
all on
no.
WhatsApp. There's no downloads. It's
It's
all on
all on
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp.
What
Okay.
I will do is I'll share a link with you, and to all your viewers and listeners, I'll give everybody a little voucher
Yes.
where you can start using the service. And if there's anyone in
Lovely.
partnering with us, any small business want to work with us, you can reach out. I'm sure you'll be able to share our details as well. You can reach out to us
Yes.
if you have an organization, you want your people to use it. If you have a business, you want to use it. By all means, come forward. I'll to all your viewers. I'll give you a link. All of them can get a little voucher. I'm going to be an Oprah moment, Oprah moment for you guys as well. And everybody's getting one. Everybody's getting one, and you can use the service and you can start engaging without needing to download an app. All on WhatsApp. You can chat to pay.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate that, Jamie. It was so lovely to chat with you. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we're looking forward to our vouchers.
Thank you so much. If you want to, in the meantime, you can check us out on Instagram. You can check us on LinkedIn. On Instagram, it's Loop Taxi app. On LinkedIn, it's Loop Transport. Or to just type in Loop. You can just Google even Loop Taxi Western Cape, and you'll see the articles and videos about us. So definitely feel free to engage. You can message us on Instagram. You can even contact me directly if you want. I'm on LinkedIn, Jamie Weingard. I'm on Instagram, Jamie Thurston Weingard. Feel free to reach out. My email address is jamie@loopapp.co.za. LOOPAPP.co.za.
Thank you so much, Jamie, and we will be sharing your details on the socials as well.
Thank you so much. I'm keen to also share this videos too and share the interview.
That was Jamie Thurston Weingart from Loop Taxi, and he has just shared his information with us. Please go have a look. And as Jamie said, there'll be some vouchers for that he will be sharing with everybody. We're going to take a quick break, and after the break, we will come back with our very last guest for this morning.
This is not just another talk show. It's the pulse check of a working continent. The job market, where policy meets people and numbers meet names. From factories to futures, from data to dignity. We don't just count jobs, we build them. The job market, only on Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover. A 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market.
Welcome back to Career Indaba. It's 8:30 a.m. We're in the last stretch of our show this morning, and we will be welcoming our final guest, Rashida. Rashida, are you there? Are you able to hear me? We're just checking if Rashida is able to hear us. Rashida, are you there?
If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover, a 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market. You're listening to Career Indaba Radio, the voice of Africa's labor market. Real voices, real change, real opportunity. This is not just another talk show. It's the pulse check of a working continent. The job market, where policy meets people and numbers meet names. From factories to futures, from data to dignity. We don't just count jobs, we build them. The job market, only on Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover.
Welcome back. We are with Rashida Miller. Rashida, are you able to hear me? There seem to be technical difficulties with Rashida's connection. We are just trying to sort out our technical difficulties with Rashida. Rashida is the national president of NATASA, and she's also an activist who's been fighting for the rights of informal traders, working on some of the challenges, some of the restrictions, bylaws, and looking to increase the support that the informal sector receives from policymakers, government, and relevant ecosystems. I think we are still trying to get Rashida. While we wait for Rashida, I'm just going to try and kind of just reflect on the conversation we just had with Jamie. And I think one of the themes that's definitely coming through for me is just this mindset shift that we need to have from the informal sector perspective, and just some of the misconceptions that we have within the informal sector. And just understanding from an empathy perspective what it is that we're dealing with, what are some of the challenges that the informal sector is dealing with, and how do we assist the informal sector become more accessible to people. I'm just checking if online. Rashida, can you hear me? Rashida? Looks like Rashida is not able to join us this morning.
This is not just another talk show. It's the pulse check of a working continent. The job market, where policy meets people and numbers meet names. From factories to futures, from data to dignity. We don't just count jobs, we build them. The job market, only on Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover.
Welcome back. It looks like we are having some challenges with Rashida and Rashida's connection. So while we wait and while we see if we can sort that out, Rashida has been in the informal sector and working in the informal sector. When I was chatting to her, she advised me that she's been working in the informal sector for about 40 years it is now. And one of her aims was to remove the barriers that is currently preventing people from just working and just earning a living. There appears to be a lot of red tape that she deals with, and there appears to be a lot of complexity that exists within the informal sector, and just making it a bit challenging for the informal sector to just exist, and people within the informal sector to just exist and earn a livelihood. One of the challenges, I think, more recently is there is a tobacco bill that has been introduced by government. And one of the more simple things that the bill now outlaws and criminalizes is the selling of loose cigarettes, as an example. Now, if you've ever been to a spaza shop, you'll know, or the corner shop or the street vendor, you'll know that informal traders sell loose cigarettes. And so these forums that exist within South Africa, I know that a few of them are actively trying to prevent this bill from being passed and becoming law, because essentially you're making it more complex for people like the informal traders to earn a living, essentially. And so again, if I reflect on the conversation with Jamie, if I look at it from an empathy perspective, when policymakers are making these decisions around what these laws are we really looking at the impact on the informal sector? And this is why these organizations that exist, they exist so that they can assist the informal sector to stand up against and fight against some of these complexities that get introduced, seemingly sometimes without a level of empathy. And so there's some work that's currently being done there with regards to that bill. One of the other things that the previous guest, Mapapatla, was going to also talk about was the conversation with the Department of Labor. So again, from a policy perspective, there's conversations happening with the Department of Labor around formalizing employment within the informal sector. And what are some of the benefits that the informal sector is currently missing out on as it relates to benefits that, for example, unemployment benefits that exist. There isn't a solution just yet, but there is a conversation that's currently happening with that in that regard. I'm going to do a quick check-in to see if there has been any movement with Rashida, and any movement with Rashida joining us, and if she's still having technical difficulties.
This is not just another talk show. It's the pulse check of a working continent. The job market, where policy meets people and numbers meet names. From factories to futures, from data to dignity. We don't just count jobs, we build them. The job market, only on Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover. A 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market.
As we're trying to see if we can get Rashida, and I'm not sure if she's got technical difficulties.
I'm here.
Hi, Rashida.
Hi. I was waiting all the time. I didn't know I must join. You said somebody.
Oh, okay. Well, we're happy to have you. Thank you so much.
No problem at all.
Rashida, will you just give us a quick introduction of who you are, which organization you are affiliated with?
Yeah, well, I'm affiliated to many, but I'm the president of the National Informal Traders Alliance of South Africa, and it's called NITASA, and we do have a website if you want to visit there.
Yeah, and you have been at the forefront of championing the rights of traders and looking at some of the challenges that exist and some of the complexities that exist for the informal trading and informal sector. Welcome again. We're glad that you're able to make it and glad that you're able to close off the show with us this morning. What first drew you into the space, Rashida? And then what first drew you into the space, and what keeps you passionate about this cause?
You know, I really don't understand how I actually got into this. You know, I studied after school, I did my BA degree, and I was teaching. But sometime in my teaching, around about after 12 years or so, I found myself always looking at manufacturing. But like my mother and my aunts, they were all, seamstresses and that. And I think I just developed a passion for that. But when I entered the sector, I saw, the challenges, the marginalization. I started mobilizing traders into organizations, and the first one was on Cape Town Station decades ago, 1987. So I believe that my passion for being, working for the vulnerable and in service for them comes by desire, by divine intervention. I do believe that. None of my families has ever done informal trade. So I do believe that God wanted me to do this.
Yeah. And when you look at South Africa's economy, what role, in your opinion, does the informal traders really play?
Oh my word, that I would say the informal sector is the biggest job creator. There are no jobs, high unemployment. And for that reason, the first stepping stone into doing business is finding a space on the informal markets, on the street, at the taxi rank, somewhere where you can trade, where there are commuters. Definitely a
Mm,
huge, huge part of the GDP. Yes.
mm. And can you currently give us some of the current complexities or red tape that is directly stopping people from earning an income within the sector?
Yeah, all across the country, we have confiscations of goods by law enforcement,
Mm,
evictions, etc. But what they can't realize is that those people out there, they don't want to be out there. They are forced to be out there because they need to earn a living. And
mm,
they, like I always say, the gogos will not allow their children to go without food. So whether they buy a pocket of potatoes or a box of bananas, go out there and sell it, and make 100 or 200 rand profit a day, that is great. And that is what the government need to realize, the importance of the informal
mm,
economy, that we create our own jobs. And what should happen from government side is to do the
mm,
supporting with regard to enabling environment, and supporting us with infrastructure, but very little of that is being done nowadays.
mm. And why do you think there's this bureaucracy and overregulation currently happening?
Well, if I should quote incidences, we would say that the formal sector puts pressure on government to remove the informal sector. The
Mm,
informal sector is such micro businesses, and I can't really see the impact that they
mm,
have on their big national stores. But it's currently happening, where you find center management wanting to remove a trader that's trading in
mm,
opposite their mall or something like that. And this is what we. I'm glad to say that I'm going to the G20 as
mm,
part of the NEDLAC community group. So we are hoping to express and to deliver a document, a paper on the informal sector and the marginalization of us. That government needs to realize they cannot give us the employment, and therefore we should really be looked at with,
mm,
with special conditions and support. But more often than not, we are being faced with challenges and evictions and things like that.
mm. Yeah. And when you go to the G20, what is the ultimate goal? What are you hoping to get out of that?
Well, it's giving us an opportunity as a marginalized sector. We are going under the social development department, and
Mm,
that government needs to realize the community's needs. And this, if I must quote SA stats, because I don't really have everything in front of me, is
mm,
that we are well over 6 million in the informal economy. That is a huge amount of people that derives an income from
mm.
from informal trade. So that's what we want
Yeah.
to present, our papers on what we need, our challenges that we experience, and we want change for our sector to the better, for the better.
Yeah. And if you were talking to the leaders, the government, the police, because there's harassment, there's confiscations, there's even bribery, what is it that you would say to them in terms of their leadership role in shifting this dynamic?
Well, we've often written to the Minister of Small Business Development. And we also see, the government puts out funding proposals, right? You can access funding.
Mm,
But the informal sector will never meet the criteria. It is too rigid. They have to tweak their rules, regulations to the needs of the people. And that
mm,
makes it then that very, very few, if any, are getting this funding. And what happens to this funding in any way? Well, next week,
Mm.
I'm in a meeting, amongst others, at NETLAC with the Minister of Small Business. And that's one of my questions that I need to ask. We were in there about a month ago, and we spoke about the red tape reduction framework. But we are saying your framework is not talking to the needs of the people on the ground. So those who gave the presentation realized that they don't know enough about the informal sector, and promised to give us a special, session where we will explain what our needs are and what our challenges are and what's really happening on the ground. Because that's another
Yeah.
story. What they sometimes say out there is not really what's happening on the ground. Just the other day, a trader that's been trading for 40 years alongside his dad, who's passed on, his blind mother has passed on, and he continues that trade. They evicted him, they removed him, even when we as an organization in Cape Town, even when we were defending the case, explaining the case, and this man is not affecting anybody. What we can't understand is this hard arm rule of law enforcement and city officials. And I think they're not compassionate to what we are trying to do. I mean, we are social workers, we're not on the
Yeah.
payroll of anybody, but they just don't seem to understand that we want to work with them around the table.
Yeah. We spoke earlier, and this theme of empathy within the context of the decisions we make within the sector has come through. And to your point again, it's understanding what is happening on the ground, but anchoring then the decisions that is being made in empathy, because there appears to be a lack of understanding and a lack of empathy when it comes to the decisions that's being made. And that brings me to the next question. I'd like to ask you just about the tobacco bill. If you could share just a bit about the tobacco bill that's just been introduced by government and what some of the challenges are there.
Absolutely. As a sector who sells tobacco, and it's not an illegal product like drugs and other things, right? So many of the women, and our industry is majority women. And I explained earlier to you, they won't let their children go sleep without food. So what do? They buy a box of chips, they buy some cigarettes, etc. So with the cigarette issue, we find them selling the cigarettes loose. Now, that is banned in this tobacco bill. Selling loose cigarettes will not be allowed, and there is a fine or jail sentence up to 10 years. Now, you tell me that. With all that is going on around our country, the corruption, the crime, and that, they want to harm an individual who wants to keep their family alive. We cannot stand still and watch this. Yes, we are on a huge campaign to have that removed. That say we're not against the fact that the tobacco bill must be there. Let me say that up front. We understand that there are health issues. We do acknowledge that, but we are saying education, education, education. And it's not illegal as being sold by the formal businesses in packages. And also the packages that we have as informal traders, they cannot be displayed. Now, how is my customer going to know that I'm selling cigarettes if I cannot display it?
Yeah.
So there's a huge adverse impact that is currently on the table. And we are still not finished with that. We will still continue to lobby.
Yeah. Good. I wish you luck with that, Rashida. Rashida, if every major policymaker were to be listening right now, what would be the one commitment you'd ask them to make as it relates to the sustainability of this sector?
My words to whoever is in power whoever works with bylaws, whoever writes policies that harms us, where we get evicted, our stock gets confiscated. Just to say, for that gentleman that was stock that was confiscated, he had to pay 5,000 rand to get it back, his own product, right? So I would say to government and to all local governments, because mainly the informal traders operate within the local government space, do care. Work with us. Let's collaborate as partners. We are not saying you alone must do the regulation. We believe in rules and regulation. But when they are punitive, when they are not developmental, we are against it. So let's sit around the table. Let's talk about what are decent rules, what we even have through our national structure with and our influence with Dr. Pat Warren and others. We have proposed through SALGA, they have drafted the document already, the environment for trading, the enabling environment for trading. We have tried to give it to all the municipalities and provinces across the country, but I don't even think they have opened the book, because in there it is clearly stated how we want to be managed and how we should collaborate and partner with government. We don't agree in illegal trading. We don't agree just to do what you want. Absolutely not. But if there's history and if there is a platform of collaboration and bargaining, then we can come out with good bylaws and bylaws that could be united, a regulated bylaw for throughout the country, because every municipality has their own bylaws. Some of them are vindictive still.
Yeah. Rashida, if I'm listening to you, it's about, again, working together. It's about collaboration and partnering so that we can develop the informal sector together with whoever the stakeholders are. Rashida, I would have loved to have had more of a conversation with you this morning. We are running out of time, and we're out of time now. But I really want to thank you for all of the hard work that you've done for all of these years. It's been many, many years. And please keep fighting the fight. Please keep doing what you're doing. We really appreciate everything that you're doing. Thank you so much, Rashida.
It's a great pleasure to be on here. The more I can talk about the sector, the better, the more conscious people become. So thank you for allowing me to be interviewed today, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
You're welcome. That is Rashida Miller, and as Rashida says, she is affiliated with quite a few organizations, but her ultimate goal is to help regulate the industry and help assist people to live with dignity. And I think, just to close off the conversation this morning, there's a clear theme that's come through for me. One of the themes definitely is collaboration. So when I spoke with Kani, it was about collaborating with corporates, with recruiters, from a job creation perspective, and understanding the skills that currently exist within the informal sector and how we intersect that with and get to understand how those skills can actually be used within the formal sector. Collaboration from just in general ecosystem. Collaborate with your customer, collaborate with the informal sector. That is a clear theme that's come through. Another very clear theme is this thing of understanding or lack of understanding that exists within everyone's space. When it comes to the informal sector, we live with a lot of misconceptions, and it's about understanding what this informal sector is really about. And then again, the theme of collaboration has come through with government. And the informal sector is looking for collaboration. The informal sector is looking for access. And I think one of the things that we need to give the informal sector kudos to is the fact that it is creating quite a lot of jobs within South Africa and Africa. And I'm very excited to see what's still going to be happening within the informal sector over the next couple of years. And I'd like to thank you all for joining me this morning. It is Career Indaba's Impact Week. And thank you very much. And I hope you have a wonderful day.
This is not just another talk show. It's the pulse check of a working continent. The job market, where policy meets people and